DJ has to bet, and he's also dumb. Even though he's blind, he's not very fun. He has his own talk show, it's every gamer's dream. It's a crazy little talk show, and it's called Cookies and Cream.
Hey there, it's Cookies, and Still Wakes the Deep has been sitting quietly on my release radar this year. Published by the Chinese Room, who brought us Dear Esther, the overly melodramatic walking simulator with a surprising twist ending, Amnesia: A Machine for Pigs, a fascinating story bogged down by a lack of fear or gameplay, Everyone's Gone to the Rapture, a story you can experience in any order, again severely lacking in gameplay, and some other lesser-known ones I just haven't tried. Reason being is while their worlds felt captivating and interesting, the moment-to-moment experience never hooked me. Still Wakes the Deep is arguably their most gameplay-centric story yet, and while not every piece comes together once the story reaches its destination, the moment-to-moment exploration and world-building is the strongest yet from this studio, and ultimately has turned me into a fan for this 6-hour adventure.
You bring the police to my door? To my rig?
I can sort this, right? I just need time.
Don't you answer me back! You're fired. You hear me? Fired.
Jesus, Gregor! Gregor!
Before we get started, if you're tuning in or have been a long-supporting member of this channel, be sure to like and subscribe, or dislike and describe why these styles of games never seemed to gravitate to you. In terms of the story, we play a worker by the name of Kaz, set in the year 1975. Disaster strikes the Beara D oil rig off the coast of Scotland. We are navigating the collapsing rig to save our crew from an otherworldly horror on the edge of all logic and reality. After a surprising turn of events seeing us get terminated, we run into an unknown event that leads us unconscious, only to wake up on this oil rig with some demonic beings run amok. The level of detail this studio went into making this place feel real is as close to Dead Space as you can get. Every room has days, weeks, months, and even years of storytelling in ways no other environment they have crafted has brought to the table. This is also a lesser explored setting in horror games, which helped me feel more at home, kind of like with Amnesia: The Bunker, but in a good way. What makes this daunting is the horrors outside of the monsters, which we'll get to in a moment. The everyday lives of people who work on these rigs is unprecedented.
Deepwater oil rigs are extremely dangerous places to work. They're taller than some of the highest skyscrapers on land and are designed to face the worst hurricanes at sea.
To the point, the studio themselves were refused onboarding for research on numerous occasions. On a lot of these rigs, the machinery is prioritized. It takes up most of the space everywhere except for, maybe a handful of social rooms, like a lounge or a kitchen. This is one of the reasons why navigating the Beara D is so difficult, and most of the locations aren't made with you, the worker, in mind. The workers themselves are also an afterthought. However, the goal from the get-go is to reunite with our friend Roy. But to get to the kitchen where he's waiting, you first need to make your way through the underbelly of the rig. This is where you have to traverse the engine room, so to speak. This is where the walking sim. Now, this is how the walking sim style approach works, unlike anything the studio has attempted before. These areas are dimly lit, leaking water with rooms at any point about to burst, forcing you into dark, claustrophobic settings with what may be one of the greatest sound design projects ever in a video game. The way sound echoes through the rig does more than create ambiance. It is a useful tool for the player, determining how close they are to the outside, where running water is, how lengthy this dark corridor may be, and even those beings we are going to get to, and oh, don't you worry, we're getting there. The sound design is a miraculous achievement, especially with 3D audio. And this combines with some decent level design which keeps you grounded with the rig. The entire time you feel that the rig is a character just as much as you, the player. Learning the past history of your fellow crewmates while also charting your own path was a journey I never felt tired of walking, unlike their previous games where I was done in the first hour. And the moments where we are compromised are equally tense due to one key detail in the design: balance. Stealth sections, exploration, puzzles, and fleeing set pieces all make up about 25% each of the total experience, while the interior sections of the rig are filled with dread and storylines as we piece together what's happening and evading those creatures beyond the walls. Having to evade the same creatures, you contrast that with getting to the outside, which only makes you realize how utterly harsh the sea is with a decaying rig that's been falling apart way before this nightmare became a reality. Heights galore, making every moment at least uneasy in one way or another. You're never truly safe as you sacrifice one demon for another in hopes of getting back to your friends and getting off this rig. While no one section of this gameplay loop is significant in its design or elevates itself to something that will test you beyond the metrics of what you experience in the first hour, you are spaced out enough to make most moments memorable, which goes a long way for a solid cast lineup with not only tremendous acting, but arguably even the strongest writing that the Chinese Room has used in the past 10 years. I cared for this crew the same way I did for those in cryostasis way back in the day. If you played that game, there's enough here to keep you entertained. The reasons people work in these conditions, those rigs, and much more are all explored in this Lovecraftian-esque tale, with themes that come to a fair conclusion by the time the credits roll. While this feels like the most complete game the Chinese Room have made, there are still some sour points in the adventure. First are the screen effects of film deteriorating, which is supposed to alert you when creatures are nearby. Honestly, it's a bad call as the sound design is more than enough to carry the experience. The levels, while designed well, weren't built enough with the use of 3D audio in mind, which I think could have elevated some of the tense moments that lacked that extra punch games like Amnesia the Bunker had. A lot of the stealth moments as well, they're dated. It gives a been there, done that feeling despite being in a unique setting. You'll hide in lockers, you'll wait for the AI to move, and then you'll move to the next area you can hide in. There will be 2 or 3 lanes you can go through, and you're trying to either find some items in the environment or move to the next area. Again, it's a been there, done that feel, but while the rig is an impressive beast and graphically looks outstanding, some of that limited scope with how people can traverse the rig does play against the level design when trying to escape these creatures. This also brings up an issue that the progression is quite linear, which can also ultimately work in the game's favor as it provides the most satisfying story that the Chinese Room have written, without a doubt. While these themes have been explored before, My praises cannot be sung heavily enough for how this dev studio treated the source material. Not even just a Lovecraftian focus, but when they elevate the environmental storytelling of the rig and the relationship of each of his workers to said rig with this historical fiction intact. Bottom line, I was hooked more than I was expecting to be. Yes, the cookie cutter gameplay set pieces have been done before, and while they work, the true show is the presentation of the rig and Kaz's story of learning to let go of what has come before. It's a title that's hitting above its weight, and it feels like the studio is getting closer to that vision they've been chasing for over nearly a decade. If you can go in overlooking some shortcomings in the puzzle and pacing department alongside some disjointed stealth encounters, then what you have is a great way to kill a Saturday night. Still Wakes the Deep earns 4 cramped engine rooms out of 5.
I still can't believe you went. What are you thinking? Going to that place? Wish you hadn't got yourself into this mess, but you did. You can't run forever. I know you were just trying to do right by me, so I need you to do what's right by us. Now, please, Kaz. I am so tired of fighting. I just want it to be over. I want you home. The girls want you home, but if you don't deal with this, then...
You still here? Oh yeah, you may be wondering about the monsters on board the rig itself. We talked about that. Well, get yourself a $1 Game Pass subscription and turn around when prompted to. You may realize the horrors on board go farther than the burdens our protagonist abandoned when signing up for this job of a lifetime.
And we are done for good. I love you, but I won't wait forever.
Now that is gaming with a purpose. Are you excited for Still Wakes the Deep? Did you enjoy any of the previous titles? Comment below and let me know the vibes. As always, this is your host Cookies, signing off.